You are listening to the Fly the W670 podcast. It's season 2. It's episode 51. Cubs break the Bronx curse. Don't forget to listen, download, review. Most importantly, subscribe to the podcast. Follow us on the socials, Fly the W670 on Twitter, Instagram, and Fly the W on Facebook. Or email Crawly and I at flythew670@gmail.com. Crawly, happy Sunday and happy the beginning of the All-Star break.
Yeah, a little bit of a nice way to kind of go into the break with the Cubs for the first time ever in the history of the franchise, taking a series in the Bronx. So how exciting is that?
Pretty wild. I mean, I knew they hadn't had a whole lot of success there, having been swept in the World Series, almost 100 years ago, 90-some years ago, right? But I didn't realize that they had not won any of the games there. So that was pretty cool to see.
Yeah, and so I look at this and I kind of, it was like it's been a weird season. It's been up, it's been down. But personally, I'm just happy that it went out on a good note.
Absolutely. Yep. It went out on a good note. That was the way to wrap up the first half. And probably Crawly, the best news is that Jameson Taillon went on Friday and had a really good outing, probably his best outing as a Cub.
Oh, clearly his best outing as a Cub. And this is why I don't gamble. I would have bet the clubhouse that Taillon had no chance. It was in game 1. You had Jameson versus Carlos Rondon, and the Cubs won this one 3-0. And so, we talked about in their history, the Cubs were 0-8 in regular season play in New York, 0-4 between the 32 and 38 World Series games. I even went to an exhibition game when they opened the new Yankee Stadium. My dad and I went out there. Cubs played the Yankees before the start of the season. They got their butt kicks in that one. And so, not thinking a lot's going to happen. Cody Bellinger led off the scoring with the solo home run in the 3rd. Nico drove in a run in the 5th, and Patrick Wisdom had an RBI double in the 7th to put the Cubs up 3-0. It was Wisdom's first extra base hit since May 28th and his first double since May 17th, as we're sitting here on July 19th. But the question here is Cody Bellinger, man, 2 for 3, and he reached a career high 13-game hitting streak. He's had 2 12-game hitting streaks. But, he's batting .479, 23 for 48 with a 1.167 OPS, 3 doubles, 2 homers, 12 runs scored, and 7 RBIs during this 13-game run dating to June 24th. His .479 average since June 24th leads the majors. Dustin, we're going to have to talk about this a lot, unfortunately, just because of the Cubs' position of where they're in. But the question you got to ask is, do the Cubs try to either extend Cody or trade him while his value is high?
It's a great question, Crawly. He was the guy that I predicted way back when the season first started. Who do you most expect to get traded? It was him. His value is super high right now. But if you were going to try to extend another Cub in season, I would pick him over Marcus Stroman. I just wonder, and haven't really heard any baseball guys speculate, maybe you have, what exactly is the marketplace for Cody Bellinger? Because somebody had mentioned, I'd read either on social media or somewhere, that he might be showcasing his talents for the Yankees this past weekend out in New York, that could potentially be a landing spot for him.
Right. As the Cubs have been inconsistent offensively, so have the Yankees. And, I'm sure he would love to hit to that short porch, in Yankee Stadium. But I mean, the question you have to ask yourself, Bellinger has to ask himself is, if the Cubs come up with a pretty good number, I mean, do you want to bet on yourself to think I'm going to finish this out and really parlay that later, or take the first offer he gets from the Cubs, or maybe not the first offer, but not engage with any other teams? That's the question. So these are all going to be these next 3 weeks for Cubs fans are going to be fascinating as we kind of look and see what the direction of this team ends up being.
Yep, it's going to be very, very interesting couple of weeks here, no doubt about that. But let's get into Jameson Taillon a little bit more here.
Ooh. After struggling most of the season, he saved his best start of the season for the last start of the first half. He got an ERA close to 7 coming into the game. He pitched past the 5th inning only once the whole season. He went one time into the 6th inning. But on Friday night, he goes 8 scoreless innings of 1 hit shutout ball. He gave up 2 walks, had 4 Ks. The only hit he gave up was to a single, the former Cub Gleyber Torres, in the first inning, and then he retires 22 of the next 24 batters he faced. Adbert closed it out in the 9th. So Taillon is the first pitcher with at least 8 innings and 1 or fewer hits allowed on the road at Yankee Stadium since Baltimore's Daniel Cabrera did it in 2006. Only 2 other pitchers have done that since 1990. And they were good names, so I had to throw them in. Bartolo Colon in 2000 did it, and Pedro Martinez in 1999.
Wow, that's going back in the time machine a little bit, yeah.
Not only that, Taillon's the first former Yankee to go at least 8 frames and allow no more than 1 hit in a game at Yankee Stadium, either old or new. But nobody saw this coming from Taillon, Dustin. Why do you think, what caused this start? Was there a mechanical adjustment, you think? Or some people said just being back at Yankee Stadium, the lack of good lefties in the Yankees lineup, or just pure baseball luck?
I'm going to go with option number 3. And he even mentioned it. I believe I heard him say this in the broadcast, early in the broadcast on Saturday's game. He said it was nice to not have a bunch of lefties stacked against him, right? So I think that's probably the reason. I know he was working on a lot of stuff with Tommy Hotovy, so that might have been part of it. Being back at Yankee Stadium, he may have been motivated. I don't know why he wouldn't have been motivated before, but maybe. And then pure baseball random luck. That would be my order. I think all 4 though are part of it, but I think it was the lack of good lefties in that Yankee lineup.
I'd probably agree. You remember when we talked about last time, we talked about Anthony Rizzo being in an awful, awful slump. And so the Yankees only had 3 lefties in the lineup. 2 of them are former Cubs. But Anthony Rizzo, who's been struggling. He's on the struggle bus big time. Billy McKinney, who was, is another one. He's hitting 239. And then Frenchie Cordero isn't even hitting his weight. He's hitting 158. So that's the thing about Taillon. He has been killed by lefties this entire season. When you look at the splits, the hits are about the same. He's given up 41 hits to lefties and 37 hits to righties. But get this, he gives up 11 home runs to lefties versus 2 to righties. When you talk about strikeouts, right, he's only struck out lefties 26 times, but righties he struck out 37 times. And then when you look at the OPS, the on-base plus slugging, 1.002 for lefties, but 618 for righties. So just so much more dominant against righties than he is lefties, and it's just bizarre.
Yep. So it was a great way to get the series started Friday night in the Bronx. Then they got up fairly early, game 2, a day game. Drew Smyly, Garrett Cole.
Yeah, the Cubs are going to lose this one 6-3, and it just wasn't the greatest game. The offense only had 3 runs on 5 hits and 1 walk. They were 1 for 4 with runners in scoring position, so you just didn't even have opportunities. Nico Horner ground up that scored Miles Mastrobuoni in the 3rd, and a 2-run home run by Mike Tauchman with Mastrobuoni along for the ride. That accounted for all 3 runs for the Cubs. But again, you're going up against Garrett Cole, who improved his record at 9-2. I wasn't going to get upset about this one. Cole makes a lot of teams look bad. And when you and I were making our predictions on the last show, we all said, oh, Garrett Cole versus Drew Smyly. Yeah, that's a loss.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, we felt even stronger about game number 2 being a loss than game number 1, even though neither one of us were willing to throw any support behind Jameson Taillon for good reason. But this was the one. The problem with Drew Smyly so far that's been unsettling is now he's giving up home runs, and he was not doing that earlier in the year.
Yeah, and so when we look at this, right, he gave up a solo home run to Giancarlo Stanton in the 1st, gave up a solo home run to Josh Donaldson in the 2nd. He gave up a bases-loaded double to Harrison Bader in the 3rd. So he's given up runs in the first 3 innings. It's 4-1. Michael Rucker replaced Smyly in the 5th and gave up a 2-run homer to Giancarlo Stanton, his 2nd of the game, and he was hitting him hard. And then Assad mopped it up with 3 innings of shutout ball. But when we go back to Smyly, he went 4 innings pitch. He gave up 6 hits, 4 runs, 4 walks, and 3 Ks, along with those 2 home runs. But our friend Michael Cerami, who's been on the show, he put up this tweet, and I kind of pulled it out there. In his first 10 starts, Smyly went 55 innings pitched with a 2.60 ERA, 23.3 Ks versus 5.5 base on balls. 85.4 mile per hour was the average exit velocity, 29% hard hit percentage, and 5.8% barrel. And then when you look at his last, and when we talked about those first 10 starts, Dustin, we would always say he gives you enough to win the game, right? But looking at these last 7 starts, he's gone 34.2 innings pitch. He has a 6.49 ERA. So his ERA jumps up 4 runs. His K rate, 15%. That's almost down 10%. His walk rate, 10.8%, up 5 more percent. 89.1 exit velocity. So people are hitting the ball on average 4 miles per hour harder. Hard hit percentage up about 10%. And barrels are up about 2%. So in every statistical category in the last 7 games, he has been struggling. And with the Cubs already having one guy struggling mightily with Jameson Taillon, you can't have 2 guys struggling like this.
No, and again, walks and home runs are never a good recipe. So that was game 2. So we're all even 1-1. Takes us into today, Sunday. Kyle Hendricks going against Jermaine, who was coming off a perfecto, right?
The perfecto was the game before the last game.
Okay.
So that was against Oakland, and you're a little nervous about this one, but the Cubs will take it 7-4. Kyle Hendricks pitched okay. He gave up 4 runs. His old teammate Anthony Rizzo hit an RBI double to put the Yankees up 1-0. After that, he's cruising along until the 6th inning when, with 1 on and 2 out, Anthony Volpe hit a homer, but followed by a home run by Kyle Higashioka to give the Yankees a 4-1 lead. So that's the first time this season that Hendricks surrendered multiple home runs in a game. Just an important note, though. You say, okay, he gave up 2 home runs in the inning. That home run by Higashioka was what they call a unicorn homer per Baseball Savant. And what that means is
yes, please explain.
Yeah, it was a homer because of that short porch in Yankee Stadium. So in all the 29 other parks in Major League Baseball, it wouldn't have been a home run. So it's not like the one that Giancarlo Stanton hit off a Drew Smiley. It wasn't 445 feet with 120 exit velo or something.
Yeah, that was a monster shot. Yeah, on Saturday. Yeah.
If Higashioka hit that ball in any other home run, it would have probably been an out.
Yeah, I noticed on the TV broadcast they had said it didn't look like there was much on that ball. So great point, but I've never heard that referred to as the unicorn, but now I get it.
Yeah, and that's it. So Hendricks went 5.2, gave up 10 hits. So a lot of hits, 4 runs. The good thing is no walks because that would have been a disaster, and 5 Ks. Cheers to the bullpen, man. Merriweather, Fulmer, and Alzley pitching 3.1 innings of shutout ball to allow the Cubs to stay in this one. Now,
bullpen was really strong, really, really strong.
Yeah, the offense scored 7 runs on 6 hits. They walked 5 times, but struck out, Dustin, 11 times, and were only 2 for 11 with runners in scoring position. So, I mean, how they won this game, I don't know, but they scored
crappy defense by the Yankees, Crawly. That's how they won. Crappy defense by the Yankees and some time and a couple of timely hits. Yeah.
Yeah, they scored 6 unanswered runs. Seiya Suzuki homered in the 5th to tie it up. His first homer since May 23rd. And again, we are at July 9th here. And so, good on that there. And then they're down 4-1 in the 7th. The Cubs scored 3 runs to tie it up, a run-scoring ground out by birthday boy Jared Young, happy birthday, and a clutch 2-out, 2-run pinch hit single by Yan Gomes to tie it up. The Cubs loaded the bases with no outs in the 8th. Seiya hits a sac fly to score Mike Tauchman to put the Cubs up 5-4. But on that play, Nico alertly moved to third and was able to score on a wild pitch by Clay Holmes to make it 6-4 Cubs. If you have a chance, go listen to Pat's call about it, because when Nico advanced to third on the sac fly, Pat gives one of that was a heads-up play by Nico. It could lead to a run. And then, the next pitch was a wild pitch. And so 6-4 Cubs, and they would add an insurance run on a Tucker Barnhart double to make it 7-4, and that's the final score. But I look back at the key, when Pat gives his, turning point moment of the game there, it was that Yan Gomes pinch hit 2-run double. And Dustin, I know you brought it up here. You brought it up on the Mully and Haw show, arguing with David Haw on this. You felt at times that Yan has been the team MVP. And as we close out to this first half, do you kind of still feel that Yan might be the MVP? I don't want any pitchers, because I'm one of those guys, Dustin. I hate when pitchers win the MVP award.
If we're taking the pitchers out, then yes, I could make a case for Gomes, but I could also make a case for Nico Hoerner, because in these couple of games when they have not had the services of Dansby Swanson, didn't miss a beat, right? Didn't miss a beat defensively. And you noticed when he was not in the offense for a little bit of time, you noticed how much they missed him. But Jan was definitely the April when they got off to a pretty decent start in April. He was definitely the guy, and he's had a couple of clutch hits lately. So I could make an argument, absolutely. And he's handling the staff for the majority of the time too.
Okay, I'm going to get a little crazy. All right, Dustin, let me get crazy here. You mentioned, and I've been noticing the same thing, that Nico's defense, look, he's a tick below Dansby, Swanson, but it's not 100% noticeable. You get what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. It is really good defense over there. The question is, what do you have with Christopher Morel? And so because honestly, Christopher Morel is not an outfielder. He doesn't read the ball good off the bat. He just not an outfielder. Third baseman, ish. But where you see his strength is at second base. So I'm just sitting here kind of just trying to figure out what, we've tried over and over again. Where do you fit Christopher Morel in this puzzle if he is something that you feel he's something special with the bat? And I'm thinking to myself, well, could Dansby move? I know they don't like talking about this. Could he move to third, leave Nico at short, and put Morel at his natural position at second base?
Well, I like the crazy, no doubt about that. But if anything, I would move Nico to third. I wouldn't move Dansby. I'd move Nico. That's what I would do. But I like where you're going with it. It makes sense. Right. But if you could teach Kyle Schwarber, here's another one though. Like if you could teach Kyle Schwarber to at least play halfway decent left field, I got to think that you could teach Morel how to play halfway decent left field. But then the question is, could Ian Happ patrol center field if you were going to trade Bellinger or move Bellinger to first base?
I am officially done. I do not want to teach anyone how to play center or serviceable. I want a stud. After watching Cody Bellinger first half, I need somebody that knows how to play center. That is so key, so clutch, and it's such a difference that I've noticed in the first half of this season. And when we talk about the first half of this season, the Cubs are 42-47. They're 7 games behind the Red Hot Brewers. So can that continue? They're 6 games out of the wild card. In the division, they have the Brewers ahead of them, and of course the Reds in first. And in the wild card, they're going to have to jump 5 teams. So the question is, how realistic is it that this team becomes buyers? Now, maybe, like we said, maybe they extend Stroman and Bellinger. Maybe they extend one of the two. But if they're going to be that, to me, those would be key, but they'd have to add a couple other pieces. And, a lot of times that involves trades. And I just don't know, in my opinion, if the Cubs are good enough right now as it stands that you want to give away any prospects for a team that really kind of you're thinking might be struggling to produce, to get enough wins to move ahead in the second half.
Yeah, it'll be very difficult. There's no doubt about that. It's going to be a really interesting, from now when they get back to work up until that trade deadline. It's going to be really interesting to see what they do.
Yeah, Jed get paid the big dollars. Let's see what him and Carter can pull off.
You are listening to the Fly the W670 podcast. It's season 2. It's episode 51. Cubs break the Bronx curse. And in this segment, we want to play an interview that Crawly did with Justin Steele at Club 400 in honor of Justin's first All-Star appearance. That's going to be on Tuesday night out in Seattle.
First of all, thank you all for coming out here, and thank you, Justin, for making it out here. You're a long way from Lucedale, Mississippi, huh?
We are.
Do me a favor, I knew I was going to get you. Do me a favor, tell us really quick. I know for Stu and I, it was Harry Carey, it was 1984. What was the first memories you have of getting into baseball?
Probably just growing up playing with my brother and my dad in the yard, doing things along that nature. And then my dad was a Braves fan growing up, so just watching the Braves play. And then every now and then we'd go to Atlanta to catch a game and stuff. So just playing in the yard mainly with my brother is kind of how I fell in love with it.
Was there a player that you really idolized on that Atlanta team?
Yeah, Tom Glavine. Tom Glavine was my go-to guy.
Yeah.
All right. Now, did you play any other sports growing up besides baseball?
Yeah, I played basketball.
Basketball. Mm-hmm. Okay, so now you're playing, and you played for George County High School. Yeah. I heard D County?
D County.
What does that mean?
So in South Mississippi, when you say you're from George County, like everybody knows that's like D County.
D County.
D County.
All right. So you pitched, but you were also a first baseman. Could you hit?
Yeah, I could hit. I was going to college to do both.
Okay, now are you upset about the DH? Do you wish you could still go up there and maybe take a swing?
I miss hitting. I miss hitting very much. I was 1 for 1 on court parties.
Oh, okay, all right. Now for you, when did you really kind of say to yourself, I could be a baseball player? This is something I can do.
When I was really young, kindergarten, I remember the teacher asking me what I wanted to be when I grew up, and I drew a picture of a baseball player. I didn't know I was going to be a pitcher, didn't know what I was going to be doing, but I knew I wanted to be a baseball player at a really young age.
Okay, so you were committed to play at the University of Southern Mississippi, but you were drafted by the Cubs in the 5th round of the 2014 draft. Was there any question in your mind you were going pro, or was there kind of some indecision?
For me, if the number was right, I was going to go and bypass college and go ahead and start my professional career, because my main focus was always on the baseball field, and school's very important and stuff, but I wanted to go ahead and start my professional career with it.
So you're sitting there, you're watching the draft. Who's in the room with you before they call your name?
Mom was there, my best friend was there, my best friend's mother was there. It was really special. I still remember it. Just hugging my mom. It was a really special moment.
Now, they say the Cubs draft you. Do you know anything about the Cubs or Wrigley Field or anything about it at all?
I know Wrigley had a lot of history. I didn't know all the specifics of it, but once I got drafted by the Cubs and got to Arizona and stuff, I started picking up and realizing just how much history was there, and I kind of just became a sponge and started learning all kinds of stuff.
When was the first time you were able to get to Wrigley Field?
First time would have been 2000, and it was either 17 or 18 when I was rehabbing Tommy John. I went there for a pre-draft combine thing they were doing for high school kids, and I went and talked to them and told them, about how good the Cubs organization is with high school athletes and stuff, and so I was kind of just, Brennan Davis was a part of that high school group, Cole Roederer, I believe Cole Franklin was also a part of that, so there was a few high school guys they ended up drafting that was in that group that I talked to.
Yeah, and Brennan and Cole were here at the Christmas party. We had an absolute blast with them. 2015, you pitch in the affiliate Low A at Eugene Emeralds. Then you move up to A-Ball in South Bend to start 2016. But in 2017, you're in Myrtle Beach. You mentioned you had Tommy John surgery.
Yeah.
How frustrating was that when you had that, and how difficult was the process to get back to where you wanted to be?
I remember as soon as I kind of had the surgery, I got right to work and just started, wanting to get back on the field as soon as possible. I had a really fast recovery. I was back in games at like 8 or 9 months post-surgery, so I was trying to get back in the game as fast as I possibly could and put myself in a position where the big league club needed me.
And you come back in 2018. You start out, in Myrtle Beach, and then you go to the Smokies. 2019, you're at the Smokies again. You're 0-6 with a 5.59 ERA over 11 starts. Mm-hmm. And then your 2020 season was canceled due to COVID. Did the Cubs talk to you about a plan, something you wanted to work on, but while they were still trying to figure out what was going to happen with baseball?
I remember that next spring training, I was in big league camp. It was either my first or second big league camp, and then once we came to the field, COVID happened, everything was canceled. And I went home for the summer, was just hanging out and stuff. And then once they kind of fired the season back up, they sent me to the alternate side, taxi squad or whatever. And I started pitching there against the other hitters that we had on the taxi squad and stuff. And I started really performing there. And then that's when they ended up, calling me up and putting me in the bullpen. And then from there, kind of just took off.
And that alt site was in South Bend, and there was a crazy amount of really good players there. That had to have been a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
So now that you're there, was there any time, you were originally, like I said, fastball, four-seamer, I think, curveball. Mm-hmm. When did the slider become part of your arsenal?
It was at that alt site. It was leading into that right before COVID happened. They told me they wanted me to start working on a slider, so I started just throwing sliders. It wasn't too big of an adjustment for me. I could always kind of spin the ball. I always had feel with curveballs, so throwing a slider was kind of second nature for me, and I just picked it right up.
And so, how much work have you done in the pitch lab, and what have you picked up while you were working at the pitch lab?
I don't do much in the pitch lab per se. They get me in there to look at numbers and make sure everything's up to speed and whatnot. But as far as me, I use the eye test for a lot of things. Like I can use my eyes, and if I'm in the lab, I can pretty much tell them that's going to register pretty good on the computer or whatever. So I like to use my eyes.
Nice. And so you were called up by the Cubs, but you didn't get to pitch. You got sent back down, but then you were called back up again. You make your debut in Milwaukee on April 12th as a reliever. How much of that game do you remember? Against the Brewers, right?
Mm-hmm.
Andrew Chafin's getting knocked around, 6 runs, and you came in, and the first batter you faced, you remember who it was or no?
No.
Daniel Robertson, strikeout.
Yeah, I remember it was a strikeout. I didn't know who I was facing. I knew it was a right-handed hitter.
Was Mom there or anybody else?
Yeah, she was at the next one. Because it was a last-minute call-up. It was like they called me up, and I had to drive from South Bend to Milwaukee, and I pitched that night.
Wow. So you are sitting there, and you come out of the bullpen, and you start pitching out of the bullpen April, May, and you hurt your hamstring.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you come back with the Cubs, it's in August, and you're coming back and you start a game. Was that the plan all along to make you a starter?
I think the Cubs have always had ideas of me being a starting pitcher ever since they drafted me and stuff. And then post Tommy John surgery and then the season getting canceled and stuff, it kind of just made sense for them to kind of groom me in the big leagues as a reliever, let me get my feet wet in that sense. And then when the hamstring happened, it was kind of just weird timing because we were going through a transition, and then they send me down. We're going to get you built up to 4 or 5 innings, and then when we call you back up, you'll be in the rotation. So ever since then, I just haven't really looked back.
Now in 2022, you got the lockout, you got a shortened season. You're competing for a spot in the rotation. You had Hendricks, Stroman, Miley, and Smiley, and then a couple guys were competing for that 5th starter spot. It was you, Alex Mills, Keegan Thompson. What was your approach that spring as you tried to lock down a spot in that rotation?
It was just go out there and compete, get outs, just show what I could do on a daily basis or every fifth to 6th day basis, or if they needed me in the bullpen at the time, I was completely open. I just wanted to help the big league club in some way.
Now, our friend Bo from A Million Cubs Cards is not here, but I understand you are a big card collector.
Yeah, I love
How
cards.
did you get into that, and tell us about how that hobby's kind of been fun for you?
Me and my brother, we were collecting sports cards at a young age, and then we had a ton of cards, and then when the COVID year happened, the hobby kind of fired back up. People started getting really back into it, so me and my brother went through our old collection. We found a ton of valuable cards that we had from when we were kids, and that kind of just set a fire on us. And then I started buying cards and stuff, and now I'm into NFL, UFC. Like, I'm a big sports guy. I'm always watching sports, so I love collecting cards.
And when you collect cards, you like to collect cards of players that you've played against or with, all of that?
I usually don't do baseball too much. I usually do NFL, UFC. Baseball time to time, and it's usually like people that I know. It's not for me like wanting like a valuable card. It's like more so like it's cool because I played with this guy.
Right. And as you sit here and you play against these players, was there ever a moment where you're facing a hitter and you say, oh my God, I can't believe it. I watched that guy on TV. I thought that guy was the best. Something that kind of blew you away a little bit while you were on the mound.
I really don't have the moments on the mound. Like I'm usually just zoned in with the catcher, just like not paying attention to who's really in the box.
All right. 2022, you make the rotation, you're in there, there's injuries, you get to play, and you have a pretty good first half.
Mm-hmm.
But the second half, your numbers were ridiculous. How about this? .98 ERA in 36.2 innings, 47 strikeouts, holding batters to a .235 average. You were, in terms of ERA, you were the best pitcher in baseball in the second half last year. Do you feel like that there was something that clicked for you or something that just started working for you? What do you think kind of you would attribute that to?
I mean, I think all season long I was constantly making the right adjustments, making the right reads, and reading swings, just paying attention and learning from each and every start. And I kind of felt like even before that second half happened, there was things happening in the first half that kind of led up to that second half happening in the fashion that it did. But yeah, I would say like a month leading into the All-Star break, I really started figuring some stuff out, started, honing in my delivery, becoming more consistent, and then I'd say that second half was just kind of a product of it.
Now, you were very much featured at Cubs Convention this year, but I thought you were at Cubs Convention before, right?
Yeah, that was my third one.
So how did it feel, though, this time around, kind of being a featured guy and being all those panels? How much did you enjoy it, and how crazy are these Cub fans?
I enjoy CubsCon a lot. It's always fun going up there. It's always good to go and get your energy up before spring training starts because the fans are always bringing energy at CubsCon.
Now, as a pitcher, you had to have been excited when all of a sudden you're kind of watching, and I don't know if you get text or you're watching it or whatever, but all the new signings that the Cubs have, and guys that are not only good offensively, but Gold Glove caliber guys. As a pitcher, how great is it to have all the, whether you're talking about Dansby, Nico, who's been up for a Golden Glove, Happ, Bellinger, for a pitcher, how much confidence does that give you to go out and just throw whatever you need to throw?
That gives me all the confidence in the world because, I mean, instead of going out there and, trying to make every single pitch the most important pitch, trying to strike them out from strike one, I can go up there and, kind of say, please hit it. If you hit it, if I throw one pitch to you, that leaves me 20 other pitches to throw to the other guys, and it gets me deeper in the ball game. But, yeah, it's nice being able to just kind of let the guy hit the ball and, guys behind me are, a lot of hardware behind me, so they're going to make the play.
Now, you got a really interesting staff. Jameson Taillon's new this year, and I heard he's a really good teammate. Mm-hmm. You guys get to talk a little bit about different grips and what you guys are doing?
Yeah, absolutely. Me and J-Mo are talking on the bench all the time, watching people pitch. We're all the starters are always communicating about pitching and stuff.
Now, I know for a fact that one of your hobbies is video games.
Mm-hmm.
What is the video game that you feel that you could beat pretty much anybody at?
A lot of them. It's a list of them.
It's a list.
It's a list. NBA 2K, MLB The Show, Fortnite, Apex, Call of Duty.
Is Cole Franklin really as bad at MLB The Show as some people make him out to be?
That's hilarious. I've actually played with Cole before on MLB The Show, and we had like a 4-0 lead in the ninth inning. He was pitching the ninth, and he absolutely blew it.
Now, Justin, I mean, I think, you've kind of mentioned you're a little bit more of an introvert, quieter guy. All the media attention, I know that Marquee has gone down to Mississippi, all that stuff. How do you adjust to kind of the new attention with the media and all that kind of the glare of the spotlight now?
Yeah, I'm definitely naturally introverted. Not one of them guys that's gonna, go out of my way to make conversation, but I'm very open to having conversation. If people come up to me, I'm more than willing to talk about anything. But yeah, very naturally introverted. But as far as media and stuff goes, I'd like to think I'm good at answering questions and giving good, clear answers, just so people understand where I'm coming from and stuff. So it really doesn't bother me as far as the media and stuff goes. But definitely like to keep to myself for the most part.
Yeah, and Marquee asked you to do stuff like Bay versus ball players, is that right?
Yeah. Some of that stuff's fun.
Yeah, you got to do that with Keegan and Edward
Alzwag. Yeah.
And so I was just kind of going through the videos, and I'm sitting there, and I'm like, Justin Steele has a skill I was not aware of. Now, I'm not a big country fan. I know we do have a lot of country fans. I just didn't know that you could sing Eric Church Homeboy so well. I mean, could you give a few bars for me? I heard you do. No. Well, Justin, this has been a really fun year so far, and we're going to take some questions from the crowd. Who's got the extra mic?
Flanagan might have one back there, yeah.
Mr. Flanagan, do we have a mic? And I think the birthday girl should get the first question.
Right there.
Birthday girl's right there. Happy birthday, Rachel.
Happy birthday.
She's always cheering you guys at the ball.
No.
You know that.
Okay, so I know there was a game last year that John Lester came to watch you pitch.
Yeah.
I'm wondering what your connection has been with him and what your conversations have been like.
All the conversations have kind of been through Rossi, or like Rossi's the one coordinating it, setting it up and stuff. But yeah, he had the start last year, towards the end of the year, against the Milwaukee Brewers. It was kind of in the middle of that run I was having on the second half, and John Lester was in the locker room beforehand and stuff. I went up to him, told him thank you for reaching out to Rossi and giving me a few tidbits and stuff to help me and take the right steps in the right direction and whatnot. And but yeah, I mean, it's a great relationship. He's offering information when he wants to and stuff. I'm going to take whatever he has.
Could you see him being a pitching coach one day?
No.
All right, any other questions?
I have a follow-up.
Oh, follow-up.
Also, I'm a big fan of Jordan Wicks in the minors.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering what your relationship with him is.
We've met a handful of times, spring training, Cubs Con. We've also played some video games together through like Cole Franklin and stuff. He's an awesome guy.
Awesome. Thanks.
No problem.
All right, who else has a question here? Go ahead.
Hello, I just want to say my son is a 9U travel baseball player right now. What advice would you give a child at 9 years old to kind of continue on to make it to the big leagues?
At 9, I would say just have fun. Make sure you're playing multiple sports, multiple positions. The main thing is just having fun at that age. I remember when I was 9 years old, and I didn't really care what position I was playing. I could have been on the mound, outfield, first. It really didn't matter to me. I just really enjoyed being on the field with my teammates, competing and hitting and throwing, just being out there playing with the guys. So I would say at 9 years old is just about having fun, building the bond with the teammates, and learning to compete.
I know you said you played basketball earlier. Did you ever play one-on-one with Brennan? I heard Brennan's quite the player.
I haven't played one-on-one with Brennan. Ever since we've been drafted, though, so it's probably not a good idea for us to play because the Cubs would not be happy to hear
Okay,
the Cubs would not be happy to hear that Justin Steele and Brennan Davis were playing a serious game.
Now, no basketball, but maybe golf with Brennan?
Yes, I have golf with Brennan.
Well, we did that earlier.
I totally missed that. All righty, who else has a question? Go ahead, right here we
I'm gonna
go.
make you go through that twice.
So, I got a question for Brendan. So I get to go to a lot of games, and this year at spring training, I noticed, and it's continued in the regular season, when you don't pitch, before the games, you came out and watched the starting pitcher warm up.
Yeah.
I've never seen it happen before in the 40 years I've been watching Cubs baseball. So you would come out in spring training, now the other pitchers come out and watch the starting pitcher warm up. It's never happened before. Why do you do that before the games? Why do you start?
For me, I like to know how our pitchers on our team click, what makes them work, little things that they do to like reset or just anything. I just like to watch how our pitchers work, and I like to, observe what they're doing and try and incorporate things that they do into what I do to make myself better because, for me, I feel like there's something to learn from everybody you encounter, so that's kind of how I look at it. So what they're doing, I like to go out there and watch how they warm up before games and stuff and like kind of incorporate it. And it's good that all of us are starting to do it together now.
The whole team now comes out. I saw it opening day. Stroh was out. They were all out there.
Yeah.
Hayden comes out. That's awesome.
Yes, I think
I
it's really
think we have a
cool.
question from the Salsa King.
How awesome was Saturday coming off the mound?
Saturday was awesome. It was really awesome. Pitching at Wrigley is definitely like the most fun thing to do, especially when it's going your way. You can't really put a price on it. It's a lot of fun.
How challenging was it in those conditions? And sorry how things turned out that game.
Do what?
I said, how challenging was it in those conditions? And sorry how things turned out that day.
Oh no, the weather I wasn't really worrying about. There was a few times the wind would pick up and it would like kind of push me over a little bit, but as far as that stuff goes, like the wind was blowing in, so as a pitcher, I'm like, I can kind of let them hit it in the air, like let them hit it as far as they want. It's gonna be hard to get one out of the yard that day, so when that kind of stuff's happening, I kind of just adjust how I'm pitching a little bit and whatnot, but it was really good to get out there and get the first one under my belt and have a good one and stuff, do my job.
Good job.
Thank you.
All right, we have a question right here. Go ahead.
Prior to the draft, who would you say had the greatest influence on you as a player
Before being drafted?
before being drafted?
Probably just my brother, my dad, my high school coaches, all them guys, Tim Davis, Brandon Davis, those are my high school coaches. I would say them guys.
And what kind of coach is Tommy Hottie? Because we hear all sorts of interesting things about him. As a pitching coach, what would you say really kind of makes him stand out?
I would say what makes Tommy stand out is how adaptive he is. He knows every pitcher is different, so he kind of is able to, articulate different ways to like go about bringing something to your attention. So like he's going to talk to me differently than he talks to talent Jameson or Stroh. I would say that's what Tommy's really, really good at, is being able to identify how people click and say the right things to them.
Señor Esparza, por favor.
Sí, tengo una pregunta para Justin. ¿Hablas español?
Sí.
Sí. So, you like the pitch clock or not?
The other day I had 2 violations, but I wasn't paying attention to the clock. I was just kind of, going through what I do, looking at, like, trying to get my sign and stuff, and then all of a sudden it's hitting 0, and the umpire was, making a scene about it and stuff. But,
I wrote it down on my.
yeah, but it's, as far as me, like I wasn't even paying attention to it, but you know, obviously the 2 blunders or whatever, but not that big of a deal for me.
And how much do you like pitch com using that?
I love the pitch count. Yeah, like getting a strikeout or something, or the balls being thrown around the infield. Go ahead and like him to like press a button, already have the pitch before I even step on the mound. Like I think that's really cool.
Great. Any other? Oh, we got a question right here.
How old did you start playing?
Baseball?
Yeah.
I mean, I was really young when I probably picked up a ball and bat and stuff, but I believe 4 years old is when I first like started league ball.
Wow. Second question.
Who makes you laugh the most on the Cubs?
Who makes me what?
Laugh the most.
Laugh? Who makes me laugh the most? Probably Albert. Probably Albert Alzolay. That's pretty funny.
Question over there.
Yeah. Can you talk about your pregame ritual, like what do you do starting the night before? Because originally we heard you were leaving at 9 and pregame, but you're not pitching tomorrow. So what do you do like the morning of on a 1:20 start?
1:20 start. I usually get to the field around 3 hours before first pitch. That gives me plenty of time to get breakfast in me, get my pregame routine going, like foam rolling, just get my body warmed up and prepared to throw however many pitches I need to throw. And then it usually takes me like 2 hours to get through like my pregame eating and all that stuff. And then I usually start walking on the field probably 30 to 40 minutes before the game starts. Start warming up, getting my arm loose. And then I'm usually done with my pregame bullpen like 10 minutes before the game starts. And then I walk back to the dugout, sit down, and just wait for the first pitch, and then go out there and get it done. I'm not really superstitious or anything. I like to treat it as a normal day. I don't really like listen to music or anything. I just like talk to everybody, just treat it like a normal day at the office.
I'll tell you something though, is that when I first saw you, I'm like, this is a quiet guy. I bet he's like Kyle Hendricks. And then you get on the mound and you're screaming and yelling, especially like big strikeouts or something, man. You seem to be like a pretty fierce competitor. Mom, would that be an accurate statement?
And everything.
What, you think so? What about in fantasy football? As competitive?
Yes. Probably the most competitive.
I think there was an incident on the field where somebody punched somebody. What was it, Jock Peterson? Or?
Jock Peterson got slapped by Tommy Pham.
You're not going to
I was not in that league.
Okay, and you're not going to take it that far. Okay, all righty. Questions? Allie.
2 things. Besides Wrigley, any place you want to pitch or get excited to pitch in?
I think it'd be really cool to pitch at Fenway. That's another historic ballpark. Other than that, I can't really think of one that I'm like just itching to pitch at. I'm always open to going to new ballparks. So every time I go to a new ballpark, I like to get in the dugout and like take a picture. Obviously want to go to all 32 ballparks. I think that'd be really cool.
All right, you are a proud father of a little guy named Bo, and how much fun is it that he gets to kind of be around the ballpark, be around Wrigley? How much enjoyment does that bring to you, and did that give you more focus after he was born as a pitcher?
Oh yeah, I mean, having a kid definitely gives you a whole different outlook and different perspective on things. Something definitely changed once he was born and stuff. Definitely had a different focus going into work and whatnot. But I mean, it's been amazing. It's coming home from the field every day and seeing him, he's smiling and stuff. It'll make whatever bad day you have, it'll just wash it right away. So it's always fun. I love being a dad.
Yeah, make you forget all about Paul Goldschmidt. Any other questions? Go ahead. Go ahead, Paul Johnson.
You moved to Arizona in the offseason. I
Yeah.
just wanted to know what went into that decision and what did you gain from being down there?
It was just a common ground for Libby and I. It also put me a lot closer to the facility and being able to be hands-on with the staff day in and day out, not being across the country from the strength staff, pitching coaches and whatnot, being able to go into the facility every day and I'm throwing bullpens right in front of them. I'm not having to try and get somebody to video it and send it to them and then, that kind of stuff. So it was nice to be hands-on with them day in and day out.
Any other questions?
I want to ask a professional baseball player this question. How does everybody in the clubhouse think of the new rules in baseball? Has anybody complained about it? Are they getting used to it? Are they adjusting?
everybody's liking that the games are faster. I would say the problem is some umpires try to take over the game almost and like be real stiflers about things when, you know, the nature of the game is kind of like, you know, it's like a bigger situation, so you need a little more, like the pitcher needs more time to think or the hitter needs more time to, you know, gather himself. You know, them situations, I think, you know, it needs to be, whether it's adding like 3 more seconds to the clock or, you know, just, you know, having a little bit of leeway when the moments start to happen, say it's late in the game or turn it off in the 9th inning or something. I would say that's kind of been the big thing, but everybody loves that it's speeding the games up.
And they're talking now about the automatic balls and strike, the challenge system.
Yeah, the challenge, yeah.
Have you guys, I don't think you've experienced that.
So my question is, would the pitcher have a challenge?
So here's the way it's going to work, is that the only people, managers cannot challenge. It's the pitcher, the catcher, or the hitter. And you have to do it immediately, no looking at anything, and then it will automatically come up to the board, and it will look like a tennis. It'll show you exactly where it is, but you only have a limited amount.
I'm into that.
All right, you're in. All right. Any other questions? Is there anyone that didn't get to ask a question? All right, Justin, we appreciate you coming here. We appreciate you being at Club 400. And Stuart, thank you for hosting and then trying to ask some questions.
Thank you guys. Thanks for having me.
Don't forget to listen, download, review, and subscribe. It's season 2. It's episode 51. Cubs break the Bronx curse. Crawly, nice job there with Justin Steele. Let's give everybody some news and notes and maybe talk a little home run derby here.
Yeah, the South Bend Cubs. I got to get my way down there, but they have their first combined no-hitter since August 12th, 2021. I don't know if you remember this name. I brought it up before. This kid, I saw him in Myrtle Beach, and I was right behind home plate, and he was throwing gas. Michael Arias, he went 3 innings pitched, and then he was followed by Jared Wright, who went 4 innings pitched. Edniel Nunez took the 8th, and Frankie Scalazzo took the 9th. And Moises Ballesteros, who I also saw at Myrtle Beach, was behind the plate. So really excited for all of those guys, all 5 of those guys, but especially for Arias and Ballesteros, who I had a chance to kind of meet and talk to in Myrtle Beach. I thought that both of those guys were special guys that I kind of just definitely put some check marks or stars or whatever you will have by, you know, we also talked about it in the last episode with Greg Hughes. These are some really interesting names to really be following.
Yeah, I love following these guys. You do a great job really following these guys, and I thank you for that. I'm not always a big multi-pitcher no-hitter, but I get why the guys were excited by it. And of course, you hope someday these guys are up at the big league level doing it for the real Cubs.
I can see Arias one day, maybe, hopefully, you know, if not a starter, definitely a bullpen piece. Because I mean, I would want, you know, he can really he can throw it up there. He can get up there quick, man.
Yep. Very cool. It was the video was cool. You know, they do a great job pushing stuff on social media. It was cool to watch, no doubt about that.
Right. Now, unfortunately, we have some injury news, and I don't think it's all that surprising just with the timing and everything. Dansby Swanson on the 10-day IL, retroactive to July 6th. That was when he injured his heel, a left heel contusion on trying to beat out a double play. Miles Mastrobuoni was recalled from AAA Iowa to take his spot on the roster. It's Dansby's first IL stint since 2019, and at that time, it was for a right heel contusion. So, you know, for Dan, it just makes sense. You know, you don't play short, and Dansby can be back on the Sunday against Boston.
Let's hope. I mean, now, what do you think, Crawly? Is he going to go out to Seattle, or do you think he stays home?
That's a good question. So the Cubs were
we haven't heard an official word on Stroman either. You know, Stroman said he's not going to throw, but we haven't heard if he's going to hang out at home or wherever, or if he's going to go out to Seattle.
But the funny thing is the Cubs are one of 10 teams with at least 3 All-Stars, but the only one of those teams with a losing record. So of the 3 All-Stars, 2 have decided they're not playing. You mentioned Stroman. Stroman played a lot of high-intensity games in the World Baseball Classic for Team Puerto Rico. He was the opening day starter. He pitched overseas in London. And so, you know, from what Marcus is saying is kind of, and we talked about this a little bit about how he's been struggling his last couple starts out there. is that he kind of feels, hey, listen to your body, like to travel from New York all the way across the country to Seattle and then back halfway to Chicago. Might be smart to listen to his body and just, whether he goes or not. I think the decision is that I don't think he'll show up in Seattle. That's my guess. I haven't talked to him about it or anything like that. That's just kind of the feeling that I'm getting.
Yeah. If I had to make a bet on it, I would agree with you there.
Now, Dansby Swanson, we talked about that heel contusion, so he's not playing. I don't know if he's going to go out to the festivities. It doesn't seem like a horrible injury, but again, like it's just like if you have an injury, good time to just recover, So that leaves Justin Steele as the only Cub that could participate in the All-Star. So, like I said, I'm really hoping he gets into the game. That's going to be fun.
Yeah, it'll be curious to see. Maybe he'll get the ball second or third. We'll have to wait and see. Saturday, Crawly, we had a little preview, right? We had the futures aspect of the All-Star weekend.
Yeah, futures game was played on Saturday. PCA, the National League won. The Cubs had two players that were participating. PCA went 0 for 2, but the cool thing is he got to lead off for the NL Futures team. And then BJ Murray, who's had himself kind of an interesting year. He was he played for Team England. He's from one of the islands. I can't remember which island he's from, but part of the United Kingdom. And so he got to play in the World Baseball Classic, got to play in the futures game. So he went 0 for 1. So, pretty cool. And the National League won the game. So all's well that ends well, right?
Always pulling for the National League in these types of things. And then tomorrow night, Monday, we've got the Home Run Derby taking place. The seeds have been set, and the number 1 overall seed is no other than a Chicago player. It's Luis Robert Jr., had 25 home runs. I think he's at 26 right now, but he's the number 1 seed on Monday night.
Yeah, I got to ask Dustin, if you had your opportunity, if you let's say our boss Mitch here sits there and says, okay, Dustin, I got tickets, you can choose, you can go to the Home Run Derby or the All-Star game. Where do you think you're going?
I think it's a great question. I think if we're talking at Wrigley, boy, I might go inside for the All-Star game and then be outside around for the Home Run Derby. I think that would be unbelievably fun to be outside of Wrigley, ball hawking, if you will, or just watching others ball hawk. But if it was inside of Wrigley, I think I might have to get inside for the game. But everywhere else, I'd want to be inside for Home Run Derby.
Yeah, I always feel like the Home Run Derby to me is like when you and I grew up, Dustin, like I remember the slam dunk competition in basketball being like the most fun thing, way more talked about or interesting than the game. I feel the Home Run Derby is the same way. Like, I don't remember a ton of memorable All-Star games, but I remember Sammy Sosa in Milwaukee. What was his name? Josh Hamilton in New York. Certain guys that just absolutely are crushing the ball. And so it's always my favorite. I think it's just more of a laid-back vibe. I mean, the trouble, I think, with the All-Star game is the starting pitchers, they know they only have to go, like, say, like 2 innings, right? And so they can give it 100%. So, when you talk about Stroman,
it's like a bunch of closers coming in and just, reaching back and just throwing gas.
Right. It's just not that exciting to me. So I would definitely do Home Run Derby if given my choice. Hopefully I'll be given a choice one day if they ever let the Wrigley Field host the All-Star game again.
Yeah. Hopefully 2025 maybe?
Maybe. It's been like 33 years. So let's get this going, man.
All right. So let's get into the matchups here, Crawly.
All right, Luis Robert, 25 home runs when the seeds were posted versus number 8 Adley Rutschman from Baltimore. I like Luis Robert here, who hometown guy, right?
Yeah, I would think that he, if you're the number 1 seed and you lose to the AC, but Adley Rutschman's a really good ball player. I mean, so we'll see.
Right. It's but I think that Luis Robert's really been the only bright spot on the south side of Chicago. Right. And when I look at what Robert's been doing and just like some of the home runs, man, the longest one that he has hit this year, when you look at Luis Robert, was 450 feet. Now, you talked about Adley Rutschman for the Orioles. The longest one he hit was 424 feet. So, to me, I think Luis Robert is a guy that I think I think he's going to have a breakout. He's going to be the one that's really interesting to me.
All right. Then we got the number 2 seed, Pete Alonso. He had 25 at the time versus the 7 seed, Julio Rodriguez, only 13, but he's the hometown guy, right?
Right. But I think Pete Alonso is built for this competition.
Yes, he is.
I
Polar
don't,
bear, right? The polar bear.
I would be shocked if Pete Alonso does not advance.
Yep. Then in the third matchup, Mookie Betts, 23 versus Vlad Guerrero, who also low number for him, only 13 at the break.
This is the one that you know, if this is the one I'm going to be watching carefully, and I'm going to go with the upset right here. I love Vladito. He had an awesome home run derby a few years back. He is super excited. I'm not to take anything away. Betts, if you're telling me who's the better all around player, it's clearly Mookie Betts, right? No doubt. But when you're talking about just this competition, he hits the ball hard, man. He lost. When was it? Like 2019, he lost to Pete Alonso by 1 home run in the finals. And that's
another guy built for the contest, as you mentioned.
Absolutely. So I would love it. And there's a little bit of history because if he wins it, he and his dad would become the first father and son duo to be home run derby champs. So I'm a big Vladdy guy.
Cool. Very cool. All right. What's the last matchup? This one, Crawly.
Last matchup, Adolis Garcia, 21 home runs versus Randy Arozarena, who's having a great season with 16 home runs. I don't know, Dustin, what do you think? Probably the least exciting of this?
Right. But it's because we don't get to see these guys that often. I'm gonna go with Randy Arozarena in this one, just because I've seen a little bit more of him. And I think he's a guy that wants to put on a show, right? He's got a lot of showmanship in his game. So that's where I'd go with in that matchup.
I'm going to stick with the number 4. I'm going to go with Adolis Garcia, but I agree with you that Arozarena has the flair. And I think that sometimes when the lights are shining bright, that's when Randy Arozarena's at his best. So I think it's going to be another good one right there. So, you know,
well, hopefully we could get a final, Crawly, right? I think we could both get on board Pete Alonso versus Vlad Guerrero Jr. in a final.
Right. So if we take a look, if we get into round 2, it would be, I would say Luis Robert versus Adolis Garcia. You would say Randy Arozarena for round 2.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think you would say Mookie Betts, right?
No, I got Guerrero.
Okay, so we both got Guerrero and Pete Alonso in round 2.
Yep.
And can you just imagine that's a rematch of the 2019 finals? I mean, how exciting would that be? So,
yep, that would be great. Yeah. So, okay, Crawly, who do you think? What's your prediction at the end? Who's getting that big? I think they've got like a big pendant necklace, like a championship belt, all kinds of stuff for the winner of this thing.
I'm going with Vladimir Guerrero Jr. I think he takes it, and I think it's going to be an exciting home run derby that we're all going to be talking about.
All right, and I am going to stick with It's really hard. Like, I think the winner of that Pete Alonso Vlad Guerrero matchup that we're hoping for, I think that's who will eventually win it. But what if they wear each other out in that round, right? Maybe. So that's something else you have to worry about. I'm going to go for a super long shot. I'm going to go with Randy Arozarena.
I like it. He's had one heck of a year, World Baseball Classic, everything else. The guy's, like I said, he's built for the spotlight. So I think it's going to be fun either way.
That's a wrap. Don't forget to listen, download, review, and subscribe to the Fly the W podcast. Follow us on the socials, Facebook and Instagram. And, of course, you can email us, flythew670gmail.com. And you can watch us on YouTube by subscribing to the 670 The Score YouTube channel. Crawly, enjoy the home run derby. Try to get involved with the All-Star game. We'll fingers crossed that Justin Steele gets in there and everything goes well. And then we will get back together midweek and look ahead to the second half of the season.
Hey, first half down and we're still in it. So go Cubs. Hey guys, it's Crawly. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more content like this. If you want to see more of our videos, be sure to check out our playlist and let us know what you think in the comments below. Also, don't forget to follow us on social media to stay up to date with our latest episodes. Links are in the description. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. Go Cubs!